In this module, we'll once again go over the map workflow and functions in ArchiCAD, but this time using the version 26 of the program. While in version 27 we were limited in our ability to freely quantify and label elements, in this older version we'll have more flexibility, and I will also explain some additional features available in ArchiCAD 26. As per usual, feel free to pause and take the course to your own timing, and remember that each lesson includes additional materials provided continuously. With that said, let's get started. Alright, so let's start off our module talking about which just particular concepts we are going to cover for this section, because pretty much we already covered everything in the previous section with ArchiCAD 27. Not everything, but most of the things were already covered. In this case, I'm going to use fully ArchiCAD 26, only ArchiCAD 26, and I'm going to delve into the details on the workflow or the fundamental aspects required to use the Map Modeler tool in ArchiCAD 26 or older versions. I'm not going to once again delve into too much details which we already covered in the other section, but I'm just going to recap maybe the same stuff, just a little bit faster, a little bit more concrete, and I'm going to delve into more details, especially, for example, in the routing options right over here, because this is really important in ArchiCAD 26 or older versions of Map Modeler. I'm also going to explain to you how to create a basic quantification or which criteria we have to use, and also how you can configure to the best the tagging tools. Something we already commented that it's not possible in Map Modeler 27 because it's a half-baked type of solution, so hopefully they fix it in ArchiCAD 28. So yeah, pretty much this section is going to be about the particular concepts or aspects of Map Modeler in ArchiCAD 26. So for the next lessons, if you have ArchiCAD 26, make sure to create a completely new type of file. And in the next lesson, I'm going to recapitulate a little bit about the general interface and environment settings. Alright, so let's kick off round 2 of Map Modeler with thankfully the best things we still got in ArchiCAD 26. First things first, let's recapitulate a little bit about the workflow, the environment, and all that stuff, all that preliminary stuff. So the first things is, let's go to the menu bar, options, project preferences, work environment, apply profile, and right over here we'll recommend it. The first things you gotta do is activate the map environment. If you don't activate it, you simply won't get any of the tools, okay? And something well recommended in ArchiCAD 27, well, we said in ArchiCAD 27 all the tools are scrambled, something which is not extremely negative, but I personally don't like too much. But in ArchiCAD 26, it's still grouped depending on which type of tools we get and which type of tools we have for each facilities. Okay, so you get one group which is called ductwork, another one which is pipework, and another one which is cabling. We'll recommend it. In ductwork, it's going to be particular to the profiles or the facilities that have a rectangular type of profile going on. In pipework, it's going to be completely circular, and in cabling for cable carriers and all that stuff, it's going to be U-shaped. So pretty much those are the particularities we have for each of the groups. It's going to change or switch the type of profile we got for each facility. Now you also got the special type of object which is also present in ArchiCAD 27, which is a flexible duct. Now this one is a little bit of an exception, we could say, because this one is really specific, but you can simply work everything as a flexible element. In ArchiCAD 27, I personally think it's a little bit better in ArchiCAD 27 because you can still draw it from zero as a spline. But in ArchiCAD 26, you will notice that it works actually as an object. So yeah, you can use this option to also create some type of special type of or flexible type of feed. Now, something we also commented in ArchiCAD 27 is the thing about the libraries. If you don't have the library linked into ArchiCAD, pretty much everything is useless. You definitely need to have the libraries, because if you don't have it, nothing will exist. This is going to be completely blank, and you're not going to be able to use these tools. So you can fix this in two different ways, one of which would be right over here when you open the different parameters for your object. Right over here you can notice we got the library settings. Simply hit the Open Library Manager to activate Library Manager. Or the second way would be File, Libraries and Objects, and Library Manager over here. And to already commented this, you need to make sure that the map library folder is linked in ArchiCAD. Because if it's not, let's say we delete this library and press OK, what's going to happen is that all of these different tools won't have the object that it's going to use, and the tools are going to be broken and pretty much useless without the library. So what we have to do is just make sure that the library is completely linked. If it's not, it's easy to fix. You simply need to hit the Add button over here, navigate to Libraries and Objects right over here in your ArchiCAD folder, which has program files, right over here Graphisoft, the version of ArchiCAD you have, and simply select the Map Library folder over here. Select the whole folder, choose it, and press OK. So pretty much that's it for the library issue within Map Modeler. And before we close this lesson, something else I want to comment. Maybe in ArchiCAD 27 it was not existent, or it was a little bit more simplified, but in ArchiCAD 26 you will notice we got this window over here, which is the toolbar for the different map tools we got. In ArchiCAD 27, if you remember, we commented we only got 3 different icons. Well, in this case we got 5 different icons. And don't forget, you can activate this manually if you navigate to Windows. You can activate, for example, in Toolbars, right over here. You will notice we got the Map Engineering toolbar, or even the Map toolbar over here, which is this one over here. Now, the Map toolbar, in my personal opinion, is a little bit better, because you got Map Systems, you got Map Routing, Map Parts, select connected elements, select connected resize map elements, edit them, collision detection, map references. Yeah, definitely what you want to do, my personal recommendation here, is make sure that this toolbar is definitely activated. So once again, Window, Toolbars, you got 2 different types of toolbar, Map Engineering, which is a little bit more simplified, or the Map toolbar, which is, in my personal opinion, is much better than the Map Engineering. So I leave this decision up to you. Maybe you can, for example, even try to unlock the Map toolbar over here, close this one, and maybe incorporate the one that has a little bit more options. Okay, so you got pretty much everything you require for your facility in this toolbar right over here. Now, something else which is not present in ArchiCAD 27, because this window is already, or was already, integrated with the tools. But in ArchiCAD 26 or in older versions, you will also get this window, which is the Map Routing, which pretty much allows you to trace everything as a polyline with the Map Routing function. Now, you can activate this window in multiple ways. Let's say we close this window. If you navigate instead of toolbars in Window, you navigate to Palettes. Right over here, you can notice we get the Map Routing option. So this is how you can activate the window in first way, or my personally preferable way. You can go over here, Map Routing, and it's going to activate this window. Or the second way, if you activated the Map toolbar, you can simply go ahead over here, Map Routing, left click it, and it's simple as it is. So yeah, this is the reason why I still prefer the Map toolbar, because you pretty much got everything you require over here. So pretty much this is the map interface for ArchiCAD 26 or older versions, whether you are working in ArchiCAD 23, ArchiCAD 19, or an older version, this is going to be pretty much similar. And also something I want to talk a little bit about is where you can find each of these options in your interface. one of which you will find if you navigate to design. Right over here you will notice we got map systems, which is pretty much the same that we already covered in the previous lessons. Map systems is exactly the same, how everything will document in 2D and 3D. The other option, you will find it in options, project preferences, and right over here you will notice we got the map preferences. Now this is a little bit different in ArchiCAD 26 versus 27, because once again these options are in ArchiCAD 27 are already integrated within the tools. In ArchiCAD 26 it's still separated, and it even has some nice options going on over here, which we will talk in a little bit. But right over here, the first things first, in project preferences, you will notice we got the map preferences function. And also the map routing, which we already commented, you will find it in window, palettes, and map routing. Now in older versions of ArchiCAD, ArchiCAD 21, ArchiCAD 20, this is not going to be the same. So make sure to go ahead, design, and try to search for the options right over here, or in window, palettes, and try to search for options in the palettes group. So as always, take some time. I want you to analyze the interface for ArchiCAD 26, and in the next lesson we will continue talking a little bit about the specifics of map 26. Alright, and having explained the interface and different options, let's talk a little bit about how you will configure each one of these different tools. And in the previous section we commented that pretty much the pipe, the transition, and the bend or the elbow tool, these three tools are integrated or simplified into one general tool, which was the pipe routing, something like that. In this case, in ArchiCAD 26, well, this would be the older version of how you work the different map tools, which is quite similar to, as we already commented, for example in ArchiCAD 27 was a T, no? But pretty much you can select any of these tools, go ahead and open up the settings. You will notice that depending on each of the objects we get different types of parameters. We get the general parameters as per usual, you get the different representations. But the fun part begins in map custom settings. This is where you can specify in three different categories: general settings, visualization, and connections. Okay? In general settings, we already commented before that we can also specify some type of insulation or a second type of layer for your pipe, for your element. You got the length in this case. Well, in this case you can actually specify the length for each of the pipes. You got the map system, which we already covered in the previous section, which was how, depending on which system you use, how it's going to document each of the elements in 2D and 3D. In visualization, you will notice we get the different settings, how it's going to represent this pipe in 2D, and how it's going to represent this pipe pretty much in 3D. So you can set, for example, the contour plane, you can set the fill type, the fill pen, the fill background, and also you got the center line. For the 3D view, you also have the possibility to go ahead and use the map system function or the map system surface. You can specify whether you want to represent the pipe as detailed as possible or simple, or you can simply deactivate this and go ahead and set a surface for the pipe and the surface for the insulation. And finally but not least, you also got the connections, which is pretty much the same as we already covered in the other section. We commented that you can set how you want the diameter to work as for each of the ends of an element. You got, for example, main 1 and you got main 2, which pretty much refers to one of the ends or to what happens on the other end. You can specify the diameter or the thickness for the walls, and something important, you can also specify whether it's going to be flange or you got some type of coupling type of connection going on over here, which type of diameter you want to use for the flange or the coupling, and which type of width you want to use. But we commented in the previous lessons that this was more of an aesthetic type of purpose,
or had an aesthetic purpose, because the flange will simply add a lot of polygons, and the system, the facility is going to wait a little bit more in terms of 3D processing. So yeah, and pretty much this will happen, or these settings will repeat for each of the tools. You can go ahead, activate the bend tool. You'll notice that it's pretty much the same. You can go ahead and specify an insulation, bend angle, whether it's going to position the elbow at 90 degrees, at 45 degrees, or whichever type of angle you want to use. Visualization is pretty much the same. Connections, it behaves pretty much the same. What happens on one of the ends and what happens on the other type of end. So for this case, what we can do, so it's a little bit easier to use once we start using the routing system. My recommendation, something we're going to do in the next lesson, is to customize this and save this in favorites. So we got one type of bend or one type of pipe for 6 inches in diameter, another one for 4 inches, and another one for 2 inches. Something similar we already did in the previous lessons, where we created favorites depending on which type of diameter we want. For the transition tool, you will notice that it's pretty much the same. You can customize and fully customize the geometry for this transition, the length, the angle, the offset, and the second offset. And also you can specify whether this one is going to have insulation or won't have insulation. So pretty much it's just a matter of activating each of the tools. If you notice, this one is a little bit different because in Archicad 27, in the pipe branch, the pipe branch is a little bit different. We only have one object, which is a branch. But in Archicad 26, we got the T and the Y type of fitting. You got the T over here, and you got the Y type of fitting over here, which is another type of branch. And these ones will change a little bit. You have some type of horizontal connection, and you have the angled type of connection. And for the T, you also have 2 different types of T's that you can fully customize, which, if I'm honest with you, I still somewhat like a little bit more this type of branches, because it gives you even more possibilities on which type of branch you want to use. And once again, everything is fully customized. You can specify the length, you can specify the connection length, the insulation, the visualization, and the connections for each of these branches or each of these ends, whether it's going to use a specific type of connection, welded, or anything you wish. So if you notice, in Archicad 26, it gives you the possibility to fully customize each of these different objects. It's a little bit more manual, yes, but it's also a little bit more possible to fully customize. So as per usual, take a moment, check out each of the customization settings for each of these objects. And in the next lesson, what we are going to do is customize just a few of these objects so we can use them for our example that is going to compose the sanitary installation. Something we already did in Archicad 27 in the previous lessons. Alright, so my main recommendation for Archicad 26 or MapModeler in Archicad 26 is to take a moment to customize all of these objects and save them in favorites. So let's go ahead, maybe position one pipe, let's go ahead, position one bend, and let's go ahead, position one transition over here. Okay, you can even position these and position maybe Y type of fittings. Okay, but even so, one way or another, what we have to do is customize each of these objects so they meet our standards or they meet the objects that we are looking forward to use. So for example, let's start off with the pipes. I'm going to create 3 types of pipes, one of which is 6 inches in diameter, another one 4 inches, and another one 2 inches. And I'm going to also customize the coupling or the flange we got in each of the ends. So let's go ahead, open up the settings. The first one will have maybe in general settings, it's going to have a thickness, well, it's not going to have an insulation. The length is going to be 6 meters. In visualization, well, maybe we can set this to be something as gray, something light for the contour pen. But in field type, how about we go ahead and set this to background, and the field background pen is going to be completely white. So when we press OK, yeah, it's going to change a little bit without the insulation. But in 2D representation, you can see how it's going to look a little bit more nice. And in contrast, for the center line, my recommendation here is to specify some type of center line. This is something to keep in mind. You can always create your symbolic type of center line. Something we already did in the previous lesson where I explained how you can create your fully customized type of line. Whether it's going to have some type of gas installation, you can create this type of representation. And also you can integrate this type of representation with your pipe object, which is amazing. So for this case, I'm just going to keep it simple, but the center line, maybe set this to be something a little bit more, maybe 0.35. For the 3D representation, it's going to be detailed, but the surface, let's say this to titanium white. Okay, let's go ahead, press OK. Okay, it's looking good. And for 3D, we also need to customize this a little bit. Let's go ahead with connections. The main diameter, since this is going to be 2 inches, let's go ahead and set this to 51 millimeters. The wall thickness looking good, but the flange diameter, let's set this to maybe 60, and the width to maybe, let's go ahead, maybe 15, something like this. Just going to work this so it's proportional. Let's press OK, see how it behaves. So yeah, the pipe is looking good, and on the other end, it's also going to look good. Okay, so let's go ahead. Maybe I'm just going to edit this pipe a little bit, something like this. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to repeat the same process, but in this case, I'm going to create a pipe that has 4 inches in diameter and another one which has 6 inches. Right, so pretty much that's it for these pipe objects. Now, what we can do now is save each of these configurations as a favorite. So let's go ahead, select the 2-inch pipe, and let's simply hit the favorites function over here. And let's save this pipe as a new favorite, which is going to be called maybe PVC 2 inches, sanitary PVC. Let's press OK. And now we have saved the first object. Let's hit OK. Now let's go ahead and save the next one. I'm just going to create a new favorite, which is called sanitary PVC, but this is going to be 4 inches. Okay, it's looking good. And let's go ahead and save the last one, which is going to be 6 inches. So pretty much this is what we have to do with each of these objects, depending on which type of facility we want to model. The first step would be to take some time, configure the different objects we are going to use in the pipes, in the bends, in the transitions, T's, Y's, takes off, more types of feedings, and pretty much all the different objects that we are going to. For the next example, let's do the same for the elbows, but for this case, we are going to use multiple types of elbows and multiple types of groups. I'm just going to copy these maybe 3 times. If you notice, what we have to do in this case is create a line for the 6 inches type of tube or type of connections. And one of these elbows is going to be at 90 degrees, another one at 60 degrees, another one at 45, another one at 30, and the final one at 50 degrees. And we have to do this 3 times, one of which is going to be for 6 inches type of connection in diameter, one of which 4 inches, and the final one at 2 inches. So just make sure to set each of type of elbow depending on the angle. This is something that we can also customize a little bit once we get into the routine settings. But for the first step, let's go ahead and set the different elbows. Okay, so that took some time, but right over here you can notice how I have customized different types of elbows that will be differentiated in diameter. Once again, 2 inches, 4 and 6. And also, once again, each one you can notice how it has a different type of angle. So let's go ahead, maybe save, okay, I'm going to leave this decision up to you, but you can save 3 basic elbows at 90 degrees, but you can also go ahead and save everything. So I leave this decision up to you. You can use it however you want. I'm going to name this PVC, 2 inches at 90 degrees. Okay, press OK. So we got the first object, and now I'm going to repeat the same process for pretty much all the different objects. And there it is. So it took a few minutes, but it was totally worth it, because now you got a small library with all different types of fittings that you can use for your facility. Let's press OK. Now for the transition, this one is going to be a little bit more simpler, because we just need 2 types of transition, one of which is going to be from 4 inches to 2 inches, and another one which is going to be from 4 inches to 6 inches. So let's go ahead and let's repeat the same process as we already did with the other objects. And right over here I got 2 transitions which are also proportional but not exact. Feel free to customize this however you want. And now we can go ahead and save this in favorites. Let's save the first one, which is going to be PVC 4 inches to 2 inches. So we got the first transition. And for the second one, let's go ahead and save this from 6 to 4 inches. Okay, so we got the second type of transition. And now you can continue customizing everything that you require. You can customize T type of feedings, Y type of feedings. It's just a matter of taking the objects until you develop a completely and fully customized type of small local library for your personal purposes, okay, or for your personal project. So as always, take as much time as you need. Make sure to customize the pipes, the bends, the transitions, the T's, the Y's, and everything else that you require. And in the next lesson, we will continue covering specific details for map 26. Alright, so having commented how you can create the different objects and also save them in your favorites, once you got everything ready, you will notice that it's quite simple, because the amazing thing about favorites, you simply click this small arrow you got over here next to each tool, and it will display which type of object you want to position. The same will apply, for example, with bends. Over here you can select which type of bend you want to position, and right over here it's simple, just double click it and you can position it. Okay, so let's talk about how you can start creating your system, how you can start creating your routine, but in a more manual way. Okay, because in practice, from experience, what we usually do once we start working on our facilities in ArchiCAD is that we combine a little bit the manual inputs right over here, and also the automatic one with the use of the MapRoutine function, something we're going to delve into detail in a little bit. Just going to position this next over here. But we need to combine and dominate both input methods. So let's start off with the manual one. Just going to take off maybe with the 4-inch pipe right over here. Let's position one over here in 2D. You can select it. You can also hit one of the nodes to start moving or adjusting the length of your pipe right over here. And let's say we want to create some type of elbow that is at 90 degrees. So the interesting thing over here is that these objects won't work as individual entities, but rather they will connect and start to generate some type of system. Okay, so let's, for example, maybe take the 4-inch elbow, which is at 90 degrees. Double click it. And if you notice over here, you need to be really careful on how you start connecting objects. You can click it, maybe something close by, it's going to position it as a simple object or as a separate entity. But if you click right over here, this is where things get interesting, because it's going to take into consideration the pipe you got over here, and it's going to ask you where you want to orient the elbow. If it's going to come over here to the left side, or if it's going to go next to the right side, okay, right over here. Or you got two extra symbologies. You got one which is an X and one which is a small arrow. The small arrow indicates that the elbow is going to be positioned at 90 degrees. I think if we go over to 3D, let's see how it's been positioned. Right over here, you can notice how it's going to have a completely vertical type of orientation, okay? Or on the other hand, if we, instead of using the arrow orientation, which was vertical upwards, okay, we also can use the X orientation. If we set it to X, it's going to be downwards, okay, to the completely opposite direction, right over here. And this is the interesting thing about Archicad 26. It's semi-automatic, but it still behaves as a separate entity, which is going to connect with other types of entities. So once again, if you move the mouse on top, you get one type of feeding. If you move the mouse downward, you get another type of feeding. If you move it to the left, in this case, you get another type of feeding. Or if you move it to the right, you have 4 types of feedings or orientations for this particular case, okay? Now, let's, for example, go ahead maybe with some type of T. I'm going to use the 4-inch type of T right over here. Let's see if we can maybe connect. Yeah, it's going to allow us, which is amazing. So you can select the T. Once again, if you click somewhere outside and you left click it, it's going to position the T as a separate entity. But if you click on the reference line you got over here, let's click on the reference line, you will get something similar. You can create a fitting which is going downwards, another one which is going, well, in this case it's going to the left or to the right, and you can specify whether it's going upwards or downwards, okay? So let's create a T-fitting which is on the 4 types of orientations. Right over here you will notice how it's going to separate the pipe into 2 different parts, and it's going to create a T-type of feeding, okay? Let's do it again. Maybe click on the reference line and position this to the right, okay? Once again, to the upward orientation, and finally, let's do one which is downwards, okay? So right over here, you can notice how we have created 4 types of fittings, each one with its respective orientation. And the same will happen with Y type of fittings. If you activate the Y fitting, you can specify whether it's going to be 4 inches. Let's press OK. And the same will happen. You can specify whether, well, it's not going to be exactly the same. It's going to be 2 types of orientations. So in this case, once again, if you click right over here, you will notice that it's going to create a separate object. But once again, you need to click on the reference line of the pipe. So you will get the first orientation, whether it's going to be to the left, to the right, upwards or downwards. Let's say we want to create an exit, which is going to be to the left. And then you can specify whether it's going to be oriented to this side or to this side. So let's make maybe the first one something like this. And now let's go ahead with the second one, which is going to be to the same side, but oriented to the left. So if you notice over here, it has created a Y type of feeding, one of which is oriented here, and another one which is oriented right over here. Which I personally like a lot from Archicad 26, because we have, in this case, in Archicad 27, we said that this is already integrated within the tools. But in Archicad 26, we have 2 different ways of working, which gives us even more possibilities. one of which is manual, which I personally like a lot for specific case scenarios, and another one which is through the routine system, which I believe is also quite an amazing function. So as always, you can start messing around with, for example, transitions. We can maybe select a transition from 4 inches to 2 inches. Click on the end of the pipe, and if you notice, it's going to create a transition over here. Or you can, for example, go ahead and also position each of the different feedings in 3D, which is also quite intuitive. Let's say we want to create some type of bend which has 4 inches 90 degrees. What we have to do is be careful not click over here or over here. We need to click exactly on the reference line. This is how it's going to detect the system. If we click on the node, you will notice that in 3D it's behaving in a similar manner. We can create an elbow which has this orientation, and then we can, for example, continue, maybe create another one, or maybe make something as this, and finally maybe position another type of elbow which is going to be something like this. Okay, so it's much more intuitive and graphical in 3D. Also, we can, for example, we got the T feeding. You can start positioning it on the vertical orientation, or the same will happen if you click on the horizontal orientation. It's going to connect and continue the system all along. The same happens with pipes. For example, you could create an extra pipe which is connected to the Y fitting. Make sure to always click on the reference line. On the reference line or on one of the nodes of the reference line. Because if you simply click, for example, pipe, and you left click over here, it's going to create a pipe which is not connected to this element. But if you position the pipe, it's automatically going to detect the angle, and it's automatically going to create an exit or a branch for your element, which is quite an amazing thing to have in this case. Okay. The same with transitions. You simply click and it's going to position a transition completely manually, and then you can continue, maybe create a pipe which is 2 inches in diameter, position it with the transition, and pretty much, as you can see, everything is really simple, really intuitive, and really graphical. But in order to make it as simple as possible, the best recommendation that I already gave you is make sure to create your favorite list, and everything is going to be from now on as simple as it can get. So as always, take some time, check out the different settings you can create for your objects, and once you have created your objects, start messing around with the different types of connections. As you notice, everything is extremely graphical. It's just a matter of clicking around and messing around. Okay, and in the next lesson, I'm going to explain to you some amazing tricks we have for the manual input method. Alright, and moving on, we have commented how you can create different types of fittings for each component. Now let's comment a little bit about which type of editing commands you got for each of the fittings. So let's start with one of my favorite ones. You can, for example, select your T type of fitting or T type of component. You can click on one of the nodes, and if you notice over here, you get an interesting command, which is move inline. Now, this is an amazing thing because if you, for example, start moving around the mouse, you can notice that you can reposition really easy and simple your fitting or your T. So what's going to happen is that it will once again adjust the pipe for you and allow you to reposition the T in a really simple and extremely easy manner. Let's say you got, for example, this branch over here. If you say, okay, I need to reposition this a little bit to over here, the same will apply. You can click on the node, on the intersection, activate the move inline command, and right over here you can notice how it's going to reposition the whole branch as a whole element. It's going to take into consideration the whole branch, and as easy as it gets, reposition your element. For the pipes, you can always, for example, click on one of the nodes on the pipe, activate the stretch command. So it's pretty much going to, for example, adjust the branch. You can make it, for example, 90 degrees, and it's automatically going to create an elbow for you, depending on how you want to reposition the branch. You can once again adjust it to be maybe 45 degrees or some type of specific angle, and ArchiCAD will adjust the elbow automatically. Okay, so if you notice, it's quite an amazing way to start editing your branches, start adjusting them. You can also adjust, stretch the branch. It's simply going to adjust the pipe, but if you move it at an angle, it's going to adjust also the elbow. You also got the elevate node command, which will allow you to create a branch which is at a sloped angle. So let's say you want to create a branch at 45 degrees. You can start positioning everything at an horizontal displacement, and then simply activate the move or elevate node command, which will allow you to create a sloped or vertical type of branches, which is quite an amazing command to have into consideration. The same, you can continue messing around. For example, you can click on one of the branches over here. Well, you got move in line. You can hit one of the commands or the reference line for the pipe, and you will get some extra commands over here, one of which is insert node. So you can, for example, start adjusting your branch or your main branch as you would adjust a polyline. And if you notice over here, ArchiCAD has created an elbow and another elbow over here. Once again, you can select your pipe, click the insert node command, and it's going to segment everything into a more segmented type of routing, which will also include a completely new node or completely new elbow, and will automatically adjust the elbow you got over here. Okay, so if you notice, it's quite an amazing command. You can also offset the edge, and right over here you can notice how the branch will offset and will automatically adjust this pipe over here. You can also activate the elevate edge, which is basically how it's going to displace in a vertical placement. But if you notice over here, it's going to disconnect the pipe with your elbow. So it will depend a little bit on the system, but it's still quite a useful command to keep in mind. So it's pretty much just a matter of messing around. For example, you can activate one of the elbows, but if maybe let's select an individual type of elbow. Let's, for example, select this one. And if I remember well, you also have this small node over here. Let's see, we can click this one. And right over here, you can notice how you can reposition your elbow. You can position it to be once again on an horizontal orientation, or you can rotate it vertically right over here, or once again, you can rotate it and position it horizontally. So also in 3D, you can edit the position you require for your elbow graphically, or even so parametrically speaking. You can specify the rotation right over here. And once again, you can take the pipe and position the pipe at your newly created angle. Simply left click, and right over here you can notice how it's going to position a pipe which is completely sloped. Okay, so this is amazing thing, and I still believe, going to be honest with you, I think that yeah, ArchiCAD 26 is still a little bit better for me, because maybe ArchiCAD 27 works as a whole flexible element, but ArchiCAD 26 still has really amazing commands, even if we are placing everything manually. So this is the reason why I still believe that the map modeler functions in ArchiCAD 27 is still half-baked. It still needs a lot of improvements, so yeah, I still believe that ArchiCAD 26 is a little bit better. So it's just a matter of messing around. You can continue clicking each of the nodes and always click one of the nodes to mess around. For example, you also get the connection length, which will allow you to specify the branch length for your element, and also you get the rotation. In the same way you can rotate your elbows, you can rotate, for example, your T's or your Y type of feedings. So as always, take as much time as you need. I want you to mess around with pretty much all different types of nodes, all different types of options, and in the next lesson we will continue covering extra details. Alright, so having explained the amazing commands we got in order to create feedings, in order to create and customize these feedings, let's talk a little bit about a concept that we already covered in the previous section with ArchiCAD 27, which was how you can create a completely custom type of line. Let's say this is not a sanitary installation, but a gas installation, and you need some type of line that will display the letter G in between its strokes. So how can you create a custom type of line? What we commented is that, for example, the pipe tool will allow you to include in visualization over here in the center line pane will allow you to include symbolic types of lines. But in first place, we need to create a symbolic type of line. And we commented in the previous section that there are multiple ways on how you can create it. But either way, you need to always use the line tool. Because if you use maybe the arc, the polyline, the spline, hotspot, it's simply not going to detect everything. So let's start off maybe drawing some type of stroke over here. I'm just going to copy this 3 more times, and in between over here, maybe with the, let's go ahead, maybe activate the text tool, create a basic, let's try again, okay, create a basic type of letter over here, and let's make it real small. Let's see if we can fit this letter over here. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger and decrease the space we require for this letter. So let's see if we can fit it over here. There we go. So yeah, if you create something like this directly, ArchiCAD is not going to accept this type of representation. What's going to happen for this case, you need to draw the letter G using the line and circle type of tool. More specifically talking the line tool alone, because I still have my doubts with the circle tool. Be careful with this tool over here. So yeah, let's give it a try. Once again, we said that what we have to do is, in first place, once you got your representation or your symbol that you want to repeat multiple times, you simply select it and press Ctrl C to copy everything. Okay. And right over here, let's go to options, let's go to element attributes, and let's activate the lines over here. This is where you are going to create your custom type of line. So let's go ahead, press the new button over here. Yeah, also something to keep in mind is that the line creation panel is a little bit different from ArchiCAD 27 to ArchiCAD 26. If you remember, in ArchiCAD 27 we always have the panel that will display all types of lines. But this is just a small issue, not to worry too much about it. Simply hit the new button. Let's go ahead, activate the symbolic type of representation, and let's type in something as gas symbolic. Let's press OK, and now what you have to do is simply hit the paste button over here. So this is the issue that I was telling you about. If you directly create the letter G, what's going to happen is that ArchiCAD will accept this line and this line, but it's going to completely ignore the letter G. It's going to display it as a blank space over here. So yeah, we got some issue going on over here if we try it with this type of method. So let's go ahead, try the second type of method. I'm going to Ctrl C to copy everything once again, or the symbol once again. Let's go to options, element attributes, and let's activate the lines. Let's create a new one, which is symbolic. Once again, gas symbol. And right over here, let's hit the paste button. So if you notice over here, it's actually going to accept the symbol which was drawn with just the use of the line tool. And now what you can do is simply start messing around with the dash and the gap. So we can make it maybe a little bit smaller, and the gap set it to be 0, so it stays as continuous as possible. So let's hit the OK button and let's test this line out. Let's see how it works. I'm simply going to activate the line tool and in line type. And in line type, let's switch this to gas symbol. Let's see how it behaves. Yeah, it's still too I'm going to be honest with you, it's still too much for me. So how about we make it even a little bit more smaller? Once again, in lines, in options and element attributes lines over here, let's maybe close the dash a little bit, make it maybe something as 3 millimeters, something real small. Now keep in mind, this is something that we already talked a little bit about in the previous courses. There is a huge difference with scale with plan through the model size, or scale independent through the paper size. If you set this to model size, these units will remain constant. If you set this to scale with plan, if you, for example, switch the scale you got over here for your view, the model size will also scale it down. It's going to be smaller, it's going to be bigger, depending on the scale. But if you set it to be scale independent, it's going to ignore completely the scale. And once you print your final result, your final layout in whichever scale you want to use, this line over here will always measure 3 millimeters printed out. So be real mindful of these two different settings over here. I'm going to keep it as paper size for now. Let's press OK. So it's 3 millimeters once it's printed out in whichever scale we want to use. And right over here you can see how now the line is behaving. Now, we also commented in the previous lesson, in the previous section, that there's a much better way to create a real smooth type of representation or real smooth type of symbolic representation. And I'm not going to delve into so much detail now because it's already been documented, but we commented that in first place we need to activate the object tool, something we definitely don't have in the map environment. So first things first, let's go ahead to options, work environment, apply profile, and let's activate back the architectural profile. Let's go ahead and activate the object tool and let's search for the 3D text type of object. So with this type of text, we can make a nice, real smooth representation that later on we can vectorize and explode it into lines. So it's going to accept it. But in first place, we need to make sure that in the text 3D settings, we set the rotation around Z to 90 degrees. And we also need to activate the show view in 2D command. Because if you don't activate this, it's basically not going to give you a 2D type of representation. I'm having some type of issue over here. Pretty sure that it's because I didn't orient the object as intended. So let's maybe see if we can mess around in the y-axis and just a matter of messing around with the axis. Let's see, we can set this to 90 and 0 on 0, see how it behaves, and there we have it. So if you notice over here, we got text 3D, which will display as it is in the floor or the plan view. And now we can see, let's see if we can mess around with the X rotation. No, the X rotation is not gonna work for this case. Let's see if it's the Y-axis. Yeah, it's going to invert it completely. So how about minus 90? So yeah, the point over here is to make the text completely horizontal and make it so it displays in the 2D plan view. Once you have the text, once it's correctly displayed in the floor plan, let's go ahead and simply type in the text we wish to display, which would be, for example, the letter G, since we want to create some type of installation, or we can even proceed and just type in gas. So let's go ahead, let's press OK, and let's position this object. Okay, so we got the nice smooth representation both for the object, but now what we have to do is vectorize this object, or in other words, convert everything into the line tool. So it accepts the format once we create a custom type of line. And the easiest way to vectorize a 2D symbolic representation would be to simply select the object, and let's go to Edit, Reshape over here. And let's go ahead and activate the Explode into Current View command over here. So let's hit it, and right over here you will notice we got the Keep Original Elements After Exploding. Simply deactivate this because I don't want to make a copy. Press OK. And now what's going to happen is that you will notice how everything's been vectorized. We can select, for example, the fill we got over here, separate the fills and the lines, and what we need are exactly these lines. If you notice, everything is done with the line tool, and now you got a really nice and smooth representation for your symbolic type of line. So I'm going to make sure to scale this down a little bit, make it maybe real small, something as maybe 300 millimeters. So let's go ahead, maybe create a custom type of line. I'm going to keep the text gas as it is, but you can customize it however you want. Okay, this is going to be a basic type of line, solid one. And let's create another stroke over here. So yeah, we got the text, okay. Make it even half of the original value, something like this. And now we select everything, press Ctrl C. Once again, let's go to Options, Element Attributes, and activate the line window over here. Let's once again hit the new button, create a symbolic type of line, gas. I'm just going to name it something else, not gas symbol, gas 2D, so the text is different. Let's press OK, and let's go ahead and hit the paste button. So as you can clearly see, ArchiCAD has completely accepted this format done through the lines, and now it's just a matter of messing around once again with these different parameters. Set it to maybe 10 millimeters, 0 for the gaps, and yeah, it's looking quite good. Let's go ahead, press OK, and let's test this line out once again. Let's activate the custom symbol, draw this line, and there we have it. So we got the fully custom type of representation, which we can even customize this a little bit, maybe make it smaller. Let's fine tune the final details. I'm going to make it maybe 3 millimeters, see how it behaves. And yeah, it's looking quite good now. So the best thing over here is that now you have the ability, you can do it in two different ways. The first one, let's say this is not a sanitary installation, but this is a gas installation. You can, for example, activate the polyline and start drawing on top of this installation. No, it's not going to accept the Magic Wand tool. I was really optimistic there, but no, it's not going to work out. So let's go ahead and maybe draw everything manually, and then maybe adjust this just a little bit. Okay, so you can, for example, activate the polyline tool, select your polyline and adjust it so it matches the trace route over here. Just keep in mind that in these corners, yeah, it's going to look a little bit weird, but it's just this small detail. But everything else will document as best as possible. So you got the first alternative, which would be to simply draw a polyline on top of your branches. And the second alternative, which I believe is a little bit better, you can go ahead and select all the pipes you got for your project and set the visualization right over here in these parameters. Set the visualization, the center line, to be something else. Let's activate and there we have it, gas symbol. I was a little bit scared there for a second, but yeah, we actually get the symbolic representation. Let's hit OK, and now you can clearly see that now it has accepted the representation. Well, I think it's actually the other one, gas 2D. Press OK, and there we have it. Now keep in mind that for the feedings, I'm not really sure if it's going to allow you or if it's going to work out. We can try it out. Let's see how it works out. So yeah, it's going to pretty much give you some type of messy representation. It's going to cut away the representation here, but you can also give it the different feedings, the T's, the Y's, the elbows, also a fully custom type of representation. So you got two different ways. I still believe that drawing on top of the polyline, even if it takes a little bit of time, it's totally worth it. But if you want to solve it a little bit faster, you can go ahead, select all the pipes. That will give you a better representation and adjust the center line. So as always, take as much time as you need. Make sure to experiment a little bit, mess around a little bit with the line representation. And for the next lesson, we will continue commenting different details. Alright, and having explained how you can create your custom 2D line, let's talk a little bit about a small detail that is not really present, but it's a more limited type of detail, and it's about the 2D representation. And clearly, as you can see over here, you can notice that the different elements are being represented correctly in the stories. Now you got, for example, the other half of this pipe, which is being represented in another story, and the other half is being represented in the ground floor. So to be honest with you, that's a really nice detail to keep in mind. Something else that you can do is, for example, select each of these elements and jump straight into the floor plan and section compartment or group for this specific element. And right over here, something that is not present. Well, it's present, yes, but it will apply the changes for the whole branch, not just one element. But in Archicad 26, you can select the element and specify how you want to represent it. For example, if we set this to all stories, something to keep in mind is that you can clearly control where you want to represent your facilities. So that's a really nice detail to keep in mind. Also, some detail that is not working properly, even in any type of map version, would be, for example, the floor plan cut plane. If we go to document and jump into floor plan cut plane settings over here, we said that, well, Archicad generates the 2D representation in plan view according to the cut plane height you set for your current story, right over here. If we modify this value, let's say instead of 1.1 meters, we make it 1.8 meters, press OK. Yeah, nothing is going to happen for this particular case. So yeah, the different map elements will simply ignore the cut plane settings and it's not going to make a difference, okay? So just keep that small detail in mind, but anyways, it's gonna cut this into two parts, and it's going to represent one part on the second story and another one on the ground floor. Now, you can always, for example, select each of the elements and override the different settings you got for the symbol, the cut surface. For example, you can override the settings for the symbol and set your own type of representation. So as you can see over here, let's activate the lines. You'll notice that how this element will stand out. It has now another type of representation. Yeah, just keep in mind that if you use this type of representation, you will lose the ability to create or use a center line with your elements. So just keep this small detail in mind. But who knows, maybe you can set your own representation in the floor plan and section compartment. Alright, and moving on, let's take a moment to recapitulate a little bit about the different map systems and how this function works. You can access this in two different ways. One would be you can navigate to your toolbars and simply hit the map system button over here. It's going to open this window, okay? And the other way would be to go to design, and right over here, almost the last option, you got map system over here, okay? So yeah, map systems is exactly the same as in Archicad 27. So pretty much you can create your different groups: cable, peeling, exhaust air, heat and sprinkler, whichever group you want to generate. In this case, let's, for example, say we want to create a system which is going to be sanitary, okay? You can create as many as you want, and then you can specify with which of these three different groups you want to use your system. You got the duct work, you got pipe work, you got cabling. So pretty much over here, you create your system and then specify with which of these tools you want to use this system. If it's sanitary, we're most likely going to use pretty much all the tools we got in the pipework group. So let's go ahead and maybe activate the pipework group over here. I'm definitely not going to use cable tray for the sanitary installation. And maybe in the sanitary, we might find some specific use for the ductwork. So maybe we can even activate the ductwork parameter over here. You can create new ones, you can rename them, you can delete them. And right over here, as I already commented in the previous lesson, this is where you will specify how this system will document your facility in 2D and how it will document it pretty much in 3D. In 3D, you got two different parameters, one for the surface of the system and one specifically talking for the insulation, something well recommended, okay? And for the 2D representation, just keep in mind that for the center lines, this is where things get a little bit messy because it's not going to allow us to use a custom type of symbol. It's only going to allow us to use or specify dashed lines for some reasons, so just keep that small detail in mind. But let's say for the sanitary installation, we want to use maybe some type of background fill. For the contour, we might go with something real small, maybe 0.13 gray. For the background, I'm going to keep it simple. And for the center line, let's keep it maybe at 0.35, okay? So pretty much you can create as many systems, specify how each of these is going to document in 2D and 3D, and simply hit OK. So once you create your system, how you can apply it? Well, there are multiple ways. Let's say we generate maybe some type of pipe over here. If I'm honest with you, the system sometimes works, sometimes it's a little bit messy in Archicad 26. If I'm completely honest with you, I think the system has been a little bit improved in Archicad 27. So that's a nice detail to keep in mind. But in Archicad 26, right over here, the map system, you can specify which system you want to use or apply for this object. So let's see, we can go ahead with sanitary system. For the visualization, you got the use system surface parameter for just the 3D. For the 2D, well, for some reason you don't have the parameter. In connections, well, you don't have a system parameter. So let's press OK. If you notice right over here, actually it's a little bit tricky, but if you specify the map system over here, it's going to apply the changes to visualization, but for the 2D compartment, okay? And it's going to also apply or give you the ability to specify how you want to represent the 3D, but not the 2D. So yeah, if you use a system, these parameters won't work anymore. It's going to apply the parameters for the system. And the same will happen in 3D. Whichever parameter you specify for your system, that is the one that will be applied in the 3D representation. So if we go back to the map systems, let's say for the sanitary, for some reason it has reset the parameters, but okay, whatever. Let's give it another try. Let's see we can, the system surface, let's make it titanium white over here. And the insulation, well, I'm not going to use insulation. Let's press OK. And right over here, it has been reset. Okay. Now, another way on how you will apply the map system, something we're going to comment in a little bit, is through the map routine preferences. Right over here, you got the map system. You can use sanitary. Everything's looking good. Let's go ahead with the start routine option, and you can simply go ahead and draw your branch. And right over here, you can notice how it's going to apply the system in 3D, okay, and how it's going to apply the system in 2D. So pretty much, as well recommended, map systems is a really useful option that I highly recommend, so you can save as much time as possible for your representation. Alright, and having commented map systems, let's go ahead. And right over here, if you want to use the map routine in Archicad 26, this is something that's been also simplified in Archicad 27 because it's already included within the tools. But in Archicad 26, you can navigate over here, options, project preferences, and right over here you got map preferences. Once you activate that option, it's going to give you this window. Another way on how you can activate your map preferences, well, we said that this is the default toolbar, but we'll recommend this and make sure to first off activate the full toolbar that is going to give you all the different options. This one over here that has 7 icons instead of 5. And right over here on this toolbar, you will notice that you get the map preferences, which is this icon, the last icon over here. You can simply hit it, and right over here it's going to give you map preferences. Now, map preferences will exclusively work with map routing most of the times, and also some predefined sizes will work with the individual components. So pretty much map preferences is definitely required if you are planning to use the map routing functions. And right over here you can specify multiple options on how it's going to work. First off, you got the rise drop unit, whether it's going to be in degree, percent. How about we go maybe with percent for this case. Then you got this duct segment length limit. If you notice, we got some measurements over here. For the duct, we got almost 2 meters, for the pipe 6 meters, and for the cable carriers, we got 2 meters. And how this will work is once you start using your routing preferences, let's say you draw a line over here, then you draw another here, and draw another here. This line will measure 12 meters. This one is going to be 5 meters. And the last one will be somewhere around 8 meters. So what's going to happen if you use the pipe tool, or the pipe tool with these routing settings, it's going to segment your pipe over here at a limit of 6 meters. Then it's going to insert another pipe, also 6 meters in length. It's going to position your elbow, and it's going to position one pipe here, and then it's going to segment your pipe here and here. This one is going to be 6 meters. Well, this is not the scale, okay? And the last segment is going to be 2 meters. So pretty much this is going to define how it's going to divide the segments into different types of pipes and how much the pipe is going to measure at its limit. Then you got the standard bend angles. This is pretty much how your elbows are going to be positioned. So let's say you're generating a new branch over here, and let's say you get up until this point. So what's going to happen is that Archicad will give you different possibilities. It's going to draw a guideline at 90 degrees. Okay, it's then going to draw another guideline at 30 degrees, another one at 60 degrees, actually at 45 degrees, another one at 60 degrees, okay, and the final one, well, it's pretty much going to give you multiple choices on how you can create your bend, on how you can create your elbow and position your elbow according to these angles. This is something that we can visualize a little bit better once we start generating the different branches, the different routings. You can add as many as you want. You can, for example, add a custom bend angle, maybe at 5 degrees. So right over here is going to give you 5, 15, 30, 45, 60, and 90 bend angles. So all your elbows will go according to these measurements. Then you got the predefined sizes. Now this is important, and this is really similar because in Archicad 27, let me go back to Archicad 27 for a second. We said that we got the root preferences, and the only possible parameter we can modify are the standardized measurements we plan to use with our diameters. So pretty much it's the same in Archicad 26. This is where you can define the sizes for the diameters you plan to use with ducts, with pipes, and with cable carriers. So you can, for example, click pipes. Right over here you can start defining the size, the bend radius for your elbows, and of course the description that will go according to each size. So for example, we got 2 inches, which will give us a specific size, 1 inch, half an inch, etc. So this is where you can start adding multiple sizes. You can create, for example, your own personal size. Let's make it maybe 38 millimeters. The bend radius is going to stay the same. Okay. And let's specify that this one is going to be 38 millimeters. So you can also, for example, export, import the sizes, remove them, add them, whichever option you want to use. This is something we're going to define in a little bit once we start adjusting the map routing settings. But how about maybe we can even define them from the very beginning. Let's maybe add another one which is going to be 51. The bend radius is going to be the same. This one is going to be 2 inches. I'm going to delete maybe this one. Add another one which is going to be 102. This one is going to be 4 inches. And let's add another one, 154, which is going to be maybe 6 inches. So these are the measurements that I'm going to use with the example, with the practical example we're going to do in the next section. So I'm going to set the diameters right over here, press OK, and then you can do the same for ducts, where you can specify the measurements you plan to use, and also with cable carriers, where you can also specify different descriptions and sizes represented or given in your working units. Okay, you also got different miscellaneous options, whether you want to convert the equipment to objects, if you want to convert the equipment. Well, this is a little bit specific. You just activate it, press OK, and it's going to convert all the map objects to equipment, or vice versa, all the equipment to objects. Okay, you can also activate this option, so when you start positioning your equipment, it's going to convert everything automatically. So this is pretty much how the objects will behave, but for now let's simply go ahead, press OK, and right over here, when we specify that we are going to work with pipe work in the map routine settings, right over here you will notice you got the different measurements, okay, and you got a nice description. Something that I didn't notice has been already implemented in Archicad 26, because before in older versions you might find that it's only going to display the different measurements, but it's good to know that we already have the description. The same will apply if I remember well. Let's go to pipes and connections. And the diameter, well, no, it's not going to give us a diameter here. This is completely custom. So yeah, the custom sizes will only be displayed in the map routine settings. So as always, take us some time to check out the map preferences. And once you are done with this window, we can continue now talking about the amazing function we have over here, which is the map routine window. Alright, and having commented map preferences, let's talk a little bit about the best function for map modeler in Archicad 26, which would be the map routine. Now, I already commented that in Archicad 27 the map routine is non-existent because it's now integrated with the pipe routine tool, a new tool in Archicad 27, but in older versions you have to use it separated, which in my personal opinion I think is a little bit better because you have two possibilities on how you can create your facilities: the manual input method, which is something we already commented, and the routing, which is done with this window, or the automatic input, if we can call it as that. Okay, now the map routine, you can activate it in two different ways, one of which would be in your toolbar. Simply click this button over here. It's going to activate this floating window, which you can position anywhere you want. And the second way would be something well recommended: Windows, palettes, and right over here you can notice we get the map routine over here. Now, when you activate this function, the first thing you will notice is that you can select with which set of tools you want to work, whether it's going to be duct work or pretty much this set of tools. You will notice that it has 4 different options. You can create a rectangular type of profile, circular one, ellipse, and also you got the flexible one, which is not present in the other different types of profiles. And the flexible one will pretty much use the flexible duct tool. You got the profiles, which would be the ducts. You can also customize the ducts to be circular, if I remember well, but in this case you got in ductwork you got the most type of profiles. Okay, in pipework it's going to use this set of tools, something we're going to use actually for the example. And for this example and this case scenario, you can set, for example, the measurements will be specified in the map preferences, but pretty much it's going to use all these tools. And in cabling, it's going to go ahead and position different types of cable carriers. You can even customize them to be different, 2 different models, whether it's going to be a solid model or whether it's going to be a ladder type of model. Okay, so pretty much the first thing you need to specify whether you're going to work with which type of tools or which set of tools you are going to work with. And once you're done, you can go ahead. For example, let's activate ductwork. set the profile you want to use, and then start adjusting the measurements. You got the standardized measurements you can specify in map preferences. In this case, it's going to be for two different dimensions, one which is the width and one which is the height. Right over here you can specify width and height, or you can input a custom measurement for your profile. If it's going to be circular or an ellipse, well, in ellipse you got two measurements, in circular you got only one, and in the flexible one you also got only one. So let's go ahead. I'm just going to cover the first part for this lesson. In the next lesson we can continue with the next one, and later on with the final one. But for this case, let's go ahead, maybe set something basic, and to start a routine you simply hit the start routine button over here. And as you would in ArchiCAD 27, you simply draw a polyline, something as this. And once you want to finish your routine, you got two different options. You can click on the last node once again, or you can hit the finish routine button. So let's click over here. And in this manner, we have created a rectangular type of profile. Let's see how the flexible one will work, because this is an exception. Let's go ahead, start the routine. Let's left click. And if you notice, the flexible one will allow you to draw everything but as you would with a spline. So if you have some type of flexible duct, whether you want to use it for your electrical facility. In Mexico, I'm pretty sure that in many different countries we use polyduct or the flexible tube. So if you want to simulate this type of installation for your electrical facilities, you need to use the ductwork type of group and go ahead and use the flexible tube. The same will apply for pipework. Maybe let's set this to a standardized measurement for inches. Let's start with the routing, left click, left click, left click, and left click. And you will notice how it's going to create a completely new segment using the map routine function. You also have the construction method, which is something we're going to talk in a little bit, where you creating your routine or where you creating your branches, okay? And then you got the general options such as the map system. You got the routine options, something we're going to comment in a little bit. But pretty much this is how the map routine will work. So let's start with the section. Take just a few minutes to check this out. And in the next lesson, I'm going to explain to you how the construction method will work. So let's go ahead and now comment about the construction method and how you will control where you want your branch to generate, okay? So in the construction method, you will notice you got different directions. You can create an horizontal one. You can specify if the facility is going to go vertically in the next point, if it's going to go on a sloped type of angle, or if it's going to be completely free, something I personally never use, because we usually can solve everything with these three different methods, okay? So let's go ahead, maybe select the pipework, set a standardized measurement, and right over here you can set the initial displacement from as project 0, or if you want to switch it, you can make it a displacement according to the first reference, the current story, whichever value you want to use. I'm going to set it at 0. So for the construction method to work, let's go ahead and start the routine. Left click to set your first point, and once you set your first point, you notice that you got different options. From this point, if you want to create a vertical type of displacement, you can go ahead and set a vertical one. Let's combine it a little bit. Let's left click and then let's click on this vertical displacement. Now the vertical rise would be a little bit similar to what happens in ArchiCAD 27. If you activate this button, it will allow you to specify the elevation. Now in ArchiCAD 27 we said you specify the Z coordinate, but in this case personally I think it's a little bit better, because the elevation you can specify it as a general displacement. Okay, from this point it's going to elevate 3 meters. Let's press OK. And now the next set of clicks will be the same as in ArchiCAD 27. The facility will be created on the next story. So let's say we create something as this, and now let's go to a vertical displacement and switch it to 0. Let's press OK. So the next series of clicks will be back on the first story. Let's press OK. Let's left click so we finish the routine. Press OK or continue. And over here you will notice how everything's been documented in an interesting way, because if I remember well, before we even started generating the routine, I think I misplaced the parameter and I left this parameter unattended, so it documents in all stories. So yeah, that's one thing to keep in mind. Whichever parameter you have currently set for your pipe tool, it will be completely translated into your general elements you create with the map routine. So for this case, my recommendation before you even start, make sure to maybe activate the pickup parameter tool, and let's pick up the parameters for this one. Let's pick up the parameters for this one, okay, and lastly this one and this one. Let's see if we can try again. Not sure. Yeah, let's see if we can try again. I'm going to create a new routine, but in this case I have picked up the parameters that I have created when we adjusted the favorites, the different elements. I have picked up the parameters for the sanitary PVC at 4 inches. Okay, let's left click. This one is going to be vertical, 3 meters, and let's create something similar, something like this once again, and then another displacement back to 0. Press OK and finish the routing. So now you can see that if we pick up the parameters to what we have created before, the map routine option will pretty much use the saved up parameters we have for each of these tools. So keep this small detail really close by, because it will mark a huge difference when you are creating your branch. Okay, so let's go back to 3D, and right over here you will notice how it has created the first pipes in the first story over here, and the next series of clicks it has created a vertical displacement, and the next set of clicks will be created in the next story. So with this construction method, now you can start generating vertical displacement. Let's try again, but let's start the routine. Let's left click, and in this case let's activate maybe a sloped type of displacement. Let's make it maybe 15%. Let's left click, and let's make a series of clicks that does something as this, maybe some type of basic spiral. And let's end the routing. Let's press continue, and let's see the result in 3D. So with the next type of construction method, you will notice how your facility is created at a sloped or an angle. And with this one, you can control how you want to create your facility. So you can also create a routine in 3D. Let's say we start the routine at 0, at a vertical displacement of 0. Let's start the routine, and let's left click, and from this point you can continue horizontally, then specify the vertical displacement, but in this case it's going to be completely graphical. So you can move around the mouse to create the vertical displacement, or you can press the tab key and set vertical displacement numerically speaking. Okay, let's press left click. Let's switch this to horizontal displacement. Hold the shift key so it locks in place, and you can continue your routing in 3D. You can also switch to a sloped type of routine where you can set the slope also similarly to us in ArchiCAD 27, where you can also specify the slope. Set this to 25 degrees, okay, at a distance of 3000 millimeters. So let's press enter, and let's finish the routing. So right over here you can notice how it's going to create a vertical displacement, continue, and then hit the sloped type of displacement. So you got multiple options over here. You also have the pivot anchor you want to use. Maybe start the routine, left click, but if I'm honest with you, I never noticed a huge difference with the pivot. Just set it to center, so the reference line says sets on the center. Unless you want some type of displacement, you can also play around with these parameters. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about the branches and how you can start branching your system, how you can create a new branch. So what you have to do, let's say you want to create a branch that will start off from this pipe and is going to create a branch at 45 degrees. So what you have to do is set the same displacement, the same vertical displacement you got for this pipe. Let's set it at 0. Let's start the routing. And right over here, let's start the routing both on a reference line on another pipe. Let's left click. And once you left click, ArchiCAD will ask you which type of branch or which type of feeding you want to position. Whether it's going to be a T, whether it's going to be a Y, or whether it's going to be some type of takeoff. For this case, let's go with maybe some type of Y. Let's press OK. Then you will get the same representation as we already covered in the fitting lessons. You can specify where you want to branch out or where you want to create your branch. And then you can specify the direction for this branch. Let's left click. And now you get something interesting. If you remember, in the map preferences, we already specified the angles. So you can visualize this in action. You will get an angle at 90 degrees, at 15 degrees, 45 degrees. Oh, this one is 45 degrees, 60, and finally you get 90. So all the angles you input in map preferences, it will give you the different possibilities. You can also create a completely free-form angle. You can try it, but it's not going to work that well. For this case, let's hit backspace and maybe try again. Maybe it's a standardized angle, something like this, and then left click. So this is how you can create a branch or how you can create the connection. Let's try again, maybe start the routing. Let's hit the reference line. It has to be the reference line. Make sure you click exactly on the reference line. Left click. Okay, start the routing. Left click. Then specifies which type of connection you want. Press OK. And then you can go ahead and set your connection. Now, this is a really important detail. If you left click on the reference line and it doesn't give you the connection, you have to make sure that you have the suspend group command enabled. If, let's say, for example, I deactivate this command and start the routing and left click on one of the reference line, it's possible that, well, in my case, it actually detected it, but it's possible in some cases it's not going to detect the type of feeding you want to position. So keep this small detail in mind. You need to activate the suspend group, preferably because if everything else is grouped, it's possible it's not going to allow you in older versions of ArchiCAD. If I'm not mistaken, you can also, for example, start a routing at a node. Let's say we start the routing, left click on this point, and then we can create an elbow and continue the routing. So it's automatically going to connect an elbow, create the pipe, and create the next segment. But if I'm completely honest with you, the routing, the construction method, is just a matter of messing around, clicking around. So as always, take 5 minutes, check out the different possibilities you got in order to create your perfect routing. And in the next lesson, I'm going to explain to you how these different settings over here will perform. And now let's comment which settings we can find over here, which are really important. So you notice over here we got the map system, something we already commented. So you can go ahead, specify which type of map system you want. For this case, something we should have done long before starting the routing was to specify the map system. Now, if we start the routing once again, let's left click, let's make a vertical type of displacement. Actually it's graphically, so I don't know why I'm making a belly over here, but let's go over here, horizontal displacement, left click, and now you can clearly see the differences the specification of the map system will do. And the same will apply in 2D. You can clearly see how for one instance the representation will be defined through the map system. So be real mindful about this option. Then you got the routing option, something extremely important. And this is where you can also specify whether you want an insulation for your routing, whether the connection is going to be welded, whether it's going to be flanged, and which type of parameters will apply for each case. So for this case, so far we have created different types of facilities that have double skin, or in this case have some type of insulation. So let's go ahead, routine options, deactivate insulation, set the vertical displacement to 0, and once we create the new branch, you will notice the change. Now we don't have any type of insulation. Let's go ahead, maybe set this to flanged. Something, I'm going to be honest with you, this is something I don't like about Archicad 26. If you try to simulate some type of connection, some type of coupling for this end or some type of flange, it's going to get messy because it doesn't give you parameters to control the measurements for this flange. My personal recommendation, let's try it out, see how it behaves with a flange type of connection. Let's start the routing, left click, and maybe left click over here. So yeah, the flange is looking decent, but that's because we absorbed or we copied the parameters before we even start modeling. So just make sure to pick up the parameters for the pipe before you insert some type of flange. Let's go ahead and maybe try again, start the routing, something like this. And right over here, well, it's not going to make that much of a difference. So yeah, this is something I personally don't like too much about these options. It doesn't give you the ability to control the diameter for the coupling or the thickness. So what you have to do is maybe select each of the pipes individually, and then you need to adjust them manually. So you get these nice details. So my personal recommendation here would be to preferably work with the welded type of connection. You also have the connector diameter. Well, you can mess around with maybe this parameter. Let's see if we got another type of result with 120. Well, maybe we can only control the connector diameter, but we still can't control the thickness. Let's see if we can control something as 160. Left click, yeah. So yeah, it's going to allow you to control the diameter, but still we can't control the thickness. So yeah, you can mess around with this parameter, it's possible to control it. You also got the transition rule. Now this is, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm going to explain to you better off graphically, because I'm honestly doing an effort to keep my English as clear as possible. But to explain this, how about we go to Archicad 27? So pretty much the transition rule is pretty much this thing over here. If you want to position a transition, if it's going to be after the elbow or if it's going to be before the elbow. So let's say you're creating some type of routing. You start off with 4 inches in diameter, and then you switch to 2 inches. This is how it's going to work. If the transition is going to be placed in first place, and then the elbow is going to come into second place. Or if you switch the diameters midway, you can go ahead and set the transition order to something else. So in first place, it's going to position the elbow, and in second place, it's going to position the transition. So pretty much these are the settings in Archicad 26. The transition rule, one is going to place it before the bend or before the elbow, and the other one is going to place it after the bend or after the elbow. You also got the bending radius, which will be applied by the settings if you want to activate this through the settings, or if you want to apply it in a predefined manner. So it's just a matter of messing around. You can, for example, a nice detail that we didn't comment in the previous lesson about the transition settings. How can you create a transition in your routing? So let's say we create some type of branch over here. And now if you want to create a transition, let's create a new branch over here. Let's say we create something like this. And right over here, if you want to create a transition from 4 inches to 2 inches, what you have to do is midway over here, simply switch the diameter to something else, left click, and now you can notice how it has automatically positioned a transition. And now you get another diameter. You can also create a transition simply by, for example, you start the routing, something like this, but yeah, it's not going to allow you in Archicad 26. This is something present in ArchiCAD 27. So in ArchiCAD 26, the transitions, you have to generate them through these settings. Just switch the new diameter, continue with your routing, okay? And now you will notice that you have created a transition. And something to keep in mind, notice how the transition goes first and the bend or the elbow will go second according to this setting you can set over here. And finally, but not least, you also can specify in which layer you want to create your branches, in which layer you want to create your facility. So just set it to whichever layer you want to use. And with this, we can say that now we have everything ready to maximize the opportunities that the map routing settings will give us. So as always, take as much time as you need. Mess around with all different possibilities we have in the map routing options. And in the next lesson, we will continue talking about extra options. Alright, and having covered the most important things about the map routing function, let's comment now an amazing trick we got in ArchiCAD 26. Something I wish that was present in ArchiCAD 27, because as we commented, it's not possible to convert a reference or a line into a system. So for this case, what I'm going to do is, how about we open maybe the ground floor over here, and let's, for example, take maybe the polyline tool. Let's make a quick example with this tool. Let's make it a small draft over here, a small reference, and convert it into maybe some type of branch. Okay, I'm going to switch the type of line so it stays solid. But the amazing thing about Map Modeler in ArchiCAD 26 is that, for example, you can start your routing as normal as it is, but you can press and hold the spacebar key, click on your reference line, and it's going to pretty much convert that line into a system or a new branch. Okay, so it's something to take into consideration. The Magic Wand tool is present in the map routing settings. Let's see if it's going to detect the connection. Yeah, that's the issue. It's not going to automatically create feedings. So for this case, my recommendation would be to just use the reference as a first starting point, and then you can start connecting your elements. Okay, so you can simply create something over here, maybe a branch here, because yeah, the Magic Wand tool is not going to work in this case. The amazing thing is that you can, for example, use the Magic Wand tool with pretty much anything. Let's say we got another type of reference, which is maybe some type of wall. I'm just going to take the wall tool and maybe draw something basic over here, which is going to be something like this. Okay, let's go to the 3D view, and let's say we want some type of pipe that goes along the wall, following the wall. So what we can do is, once again, this is the issue that I don't like too much, switching between profiles. So in this case, I would highly recommend that you create a profile which is generally used and has all the tools activated. But let's say we want some type of pipe that goes along the wall. Let's start the routing, Magic Wand, left click, and that's it. So as you can see, you can create some type of element that follows a clear reference. So as usual, take some time, check out the Magic Wand tool, and in the next lesson we will continue with another detail. And now let's talk a little bit about precisely the reason why I still prefer Map Modeler 26 over Map Modeler 27. Because as we commented, in ArchiCAD 27 it's impossible to quantify the installation, simply not integrated for some reason. And the tagging tool is limited. You can tag in 3D, but well, in 3D documents, as well already commented, let's say we go back over here, you can tag the elements and you can tag everything, but it's not going to be possible on the ground floor. So that's the reason why I think that that Map Modeler 26 is superior in this case, because we still can create a scale and we can still tag the elements. So let's start off, for example, tagging the elements. The amazing thing is over here is that you can select each of the elements. For example, the pipe, the elbow, the Y feeding, the T feeding, and treat it as a basic object. Okay, so you got the ID for the element. You can make it maybe some type of pipe, which is going to be Let's make it P 4 inches, something as this, okay? We can even select multiple types of pipes. I'm going to delete the polyline, select this one, this one, this one, and this one, and simply tag them, make it pipe 4 inches, okay? Let's press OK. Now let's do the same with the angles, okay, with the elbows over here, and let's name these elbows. Now this is an interesting point. If you want to use the tagging tool as best as possible, my recommendation would be to name the elbow and then specify at which angle it's going to be positioned. So you can press, you can use pretty much any type of nomenclature. In my case, I just use E for elbow. Well, translated to Spanish is going to be C for codo. But in English, I'm just going to translate it directly. Then I specify the measurement for the diameter and finally the angle. And for each of the elbows, well, in this case, we have to specify which elbows are at 60 degrees, which elbows are at another type of degree, and so on. Okay, so for this case, let's make a small example, 45 degrees. And finally, maybe the T. We can also go to classifications and properties, and go ahead and use the ID to specify that this is going to be a T which is 4 inches at maybe 45 degrees or something like that. So once you got everything set, you can simply go ahead and activate in document the label tool over here. And if you click on pretty much any element, it's going to extract the ID, which is amazing. We can even delete maybe the pointer. We can make the text style a little bit smaller. Press OK and go ahead and start tagging each of the elements. So this is the reason why specifying the ID for each part is essential, because later on when you tag everything, it's going to be documented as precisely as possible. The best part is that you can also, for example, select everything and simply activate in document, go to document, annotation, and activate one of the options we already commented for this course, which was the label selected elements. So you simply label everything in 2D, and right over here you will notice that now everything's working perfectly. Something that's not going to be possible in ArchiCAD 27, and it's really painful to see that it's not possible anymore in the 27 version. So that's the first thing. You can also, for example, let's go to generic perspective and let's maybe press, let's go to generic axonometry over here. Right click this and show selection so it's isolated. And let's make a new 3D document. Let's say this is an isometric view. So pretty much you can also, for example, select everything in an isometric view and go ahead and tag everything. So we go to document, annotation, label selected elements, and it's pretty much going to work in the same manner. You just need to select each of the tags, move them around so they don't stack in the same place. But as you can clearly see, everything will work in the end perfectly fine. So this is how you can start documenting your map installation with the use of the ID. You could try to extract maybe another type of parameter for your pipe, but if you activate maybe the tag tool and try the auto text function, it's possible that it's not going to give you parameters for the pipe. So that's something to keep in mind. It's most likely you can simply use the ID, and pretty much using the ID is my best way to document the facility. Now let's go to ground floor and let's comment a little bit about the schedule function. Now in order to create a schedule, such as in the example where we can extract the function and we can, for example, specify how many pipes we got, which is the diameter, how many elbows we got, and which is the angle. Well, in this case, we need to use something extra that I'm going to explain to you in a second. First things first, let's, for example, go over here to schedules and let's create a new, completely new schedule from 0. Let's go to the ID. This is going to be map number 1, and let's make it a sanitary quantification, something basic. The quantification type is going to stay by elements over here, and we can simply go ahead and the criteria, well, the criteria can be pretty much all the elements by layer, whichever criteria you want to use. Or if you still scroll down a little bit, you will notice that we get the bands for the 3 types of groups. We got cable carriers, ducts, equipment, flexible duct, and you can specify whichever element you want to quantify. For this case, since I want to include all the elements in just one go, I'm just going to take and pick all types, okay? Let's add the fields, and right over here you will notice well, let's start off by adding maybe general parameters such as element ID. Let's go maybe with quantity, okay? And yeah, let's for now keep it as element ID and simply the quantity. Let's see if we can press OK. Let's see how it turns out, because I'm pretty sure that we are going to have multiple elements that are from the 3D doodles that we have so far. So what I'm going to do for this example is maybe I'll just set everything in the same layer and maybe work with those elements. So yeah, how about, well, maybe we select these 3D doodles over here. I'm just going to, for this example, maybe I'll just delete the configuration we had previously and simply let it be as this simple branch over here. So let's go back to the schedule. Let's see how it turns out. We got some hidden elements for some reason that I'm not understanding what's going on here, but whatever. Let's simply go ahead and maybe just keep it simple. Let's make an example with these components. Now let's say you got some elbows and you want a special column that will tell you which is the angle that the elbows have. Or let's say you got the pipes over here and you want a special column that is going to tell you what is the length of the pipe. It's possible, but not in the basic criteria that we have covered so far and in the previous section. What you have to do, because if, for example, you add a field and maybe try to search something as map, it's simply not going to give you map criteria. This is a little bit different. Since all the map elements are objects, what we can do is extract library part parameters. This is a function that we can use, an amazing function that will allow you to pretty much extract any parameter that an object has or a native object has inside ArchiCAD. So let's activate this function, library part parameters, and right over here you need to first off locate the object that you want to work with. Let's for example activate the map library 26. You got ductwork, pipework, electrical, plumbing, equipment, etc. How about we search in maybe in plumbing if we got something? Nope. Let's go to pipework and let's see if we got the segment. So we got pipe straight, which is the object. You can add this over here, it's GSM file extension. And once you locate the object that contains the parameter that you want to extract, let's simply select it, and right over here you have the available parameters and the selected parameters. Selected parameters are the ones that will be included in the schedule. So my recommendation here is to filter everything by name. Simply hit the name column over here, and right over here you will get the different parameters that you can start extracting and adding. So for example, you got wall thickness, which was the thickness of the pipe. Then you got user defined, the volume. Let's see if we get something as length right over here. So let's make a small example. Let's maybe extract the length for this object, the pipe straight. Let's add it and let's see how it behaves. So let's press OK. So you got this specific parameter for this object, and now let's hit OK and visualize what's going to happen. So if you notice over here, of course the elbows are not going to work out. It's going to tell you that it's 0, 0 and 0. Precisely because the parameter is not compatible with the other object. But if you notice over here, specifically for the pipes, which were P 4 inches, it will tell you that the first pipe has a length of 1.14, 1.70, 1.81, 2.24, and so on. So this is how you can include special object parameters in your schedules in order to create a much better type of schedule or quantification. Let's do another example. Let's do the same maybe for the angles. So once again, let's go to scheme settings, and right over here add fields. let's activate the library part parameters, okay? So the first thing is that we need to search for the object that we want to quantify. Let's maybe in pipework, go over here to fittings, and let's see if we can select the pipe bend or the elbow. If you want to quantify some specific thing about junctions or transitions, you can always select all the different objects over here. We got the T, we got the Y, we got the double sanitary T, we got crosses, we got all types of junctions and fittings over here. For this case, I'm going to keep it simple. Let's go with the pipe bend, and let's once again filter everything by alphabetical order. And let's see, we get something as angle, and right over here we get the bend angle. So let's go ahead, maybe add this parameter as a bend angle. So once it's added, let's go ahead and press OK. We get the bend angle over here, and let's finally press OK. So as you can see, yes, the parameter once again is not going to be compatible with pipes. So pretty much we're not going to get anything for the pipes. But right over here, you will notice how each of these elbow will tell you at which angle it's positioned. So I made a mistake right over here. I set this to be 90 degrees when it's actually at 45 degrees. Okay. So in this way, this is how you can pretty much extract any parameter that your map objects has. And not just the map objects, but you can also combine this function with the use of the general object tool. So as usual, take some time, check out how you can specify this extra parameter, and in the next lesson we will continue covering extra details. Alright, and having covered the different functions for the schedules, let's go ahead and comment about the collision detection, how you can use this. So let's say you got a facility that does something like this, and let's maybe go ahead. I'm going to activate once again the architectural profile, and let's say we got two different beams that one is going to do something like this. Let's maybe position it closer to the facility. Okay, so it's going to intersect something like this. So yeah, you got a clear intersection over here. Then let's say you got an extra intersection over here, and let's do one more, which is going to intersect maybe over here, but this one is going to be a little bit different. It's barely going to touch it, but it's just going to graze it. So let's say that maybe this facility is going to be offset and the intersection is going to be really, really small. Okay, let's make it a little bit over here. So right over here, if we use a 3D Explorer function, okay, so right over here, you can notice how it's barely touching the facility. So having positioned the elements, let's go ahead and do the collision detection, because you can pretty much detect everything yourself, but if we already have everything modeled, so let's let ArchiCAD do the work for us. Let's go over here to design, model check, and let's activate the collision detection. This is where you can activate it. So you got two different groups, the group number 1, the group number 2, and the tolerances. This is how the window will divide. And you can run the collision detection on pretty much any type of element, not just facilities with structures. You can create a collision detection between maybe columns and walls, between objects and some type of curtain wall. You can run collision detection between morphs and meshes. It's completely free and has two of these criteria. Okay, so the first group, we simply need to select, in the first group we need to select everything which is the facility. And before we do so, I think it is going to be much easier if we use layers for this example. So before proceeding with the collision detection, how about we take a little bit of time, maybe set the layers and configure the layers a little bit. So I'm going to delete everything I have so far. Not the elements. The elements, I'm going to move them into the ArchiCAD layer with the move command. And right over here, let's create a new layer. One of each is going to be structure. Okay, the extension is going to be structure. And the other one is going to be sanitary. and the extension is going to be map. So once we got the layers, let's press OK. Let's move the beams into the structural layer, into structures over here. I'm going to temporarily hide the beams. Let's select let's turn off the layers just in case. Okay. Now let's select the installation, move this to sanitary, and yes, we got also some objects that won't move on the first go, so let's go with the second go to sanitary, and third go once again to sanitary. So yeah, it's going to move the elbows, the pipes, and the T in a separate manner. Just keep that small detail in mind. Now, once we have made sure that everything stays in its respective layer, now let's go ahead and activate the collision detection. So let's activate the collision detection function. The first group is going to be everything that is by layer, and it's going to be in the layer over here. So let's set this to be the structures, okay, all types that are in the structural layer, and let's set the second one to be the sanitary installation. Let's set this to be the layer is going to be sanitary. So it's going to take the first criteria and run the collision detection with the second set of elements that you will select over here. And now you got the tolerances. This is where you can specify at which value, which is lower than the one you input over here, ArchiCAD is going to ignore the collision. It's not going to take it into consideration. So this is the reason why the final beam, I made sure just so it barely touches the beam, or just so it barely touches the facility. It's barely grazing it, it's not so critical. So in the small volume tolerance that we input over here, we can notice how it's going to ignore it. You can also make volume tolerances, set this over here, and check the surface collision. Set the surface collision tolerance also over here. Once you got everything ready, let's simply hit the check button. And right over here, you can notice we got 3 different collisions for some reason. Once it's finished detecting the collisions, you can simply double click. So yeah, if you notice over here, we got a small collision, which it was probably barely touching, but yeah, it's still a little bit bigger than the tolerance. So yeah, let's try it once again. In this case, if you notice, it's barely now even touching the facility. Let's go to design, model check, collision detection, and let's check if it detects it. And yeah, for some reason now it's not going to detect the second collision, which is barely grazing. If we increment the tolerance, it's also going to ignore this collision. So we got 2 different collisions now, which are the most critical ones. If you notice over here, ArchiCAD has detected the first collision. You can double click this and ArchiCAD will select the elements for you. If you notice, you got these 2 elements selected. You got element 1 and element 2, and you can double click and we'll select element 1 and element 2 over here. You got extra options. Once again, you can open up the collision detection window over here. You got physical model quality, which is another function, issues, which is something we cover in a more advanced course, or you can pretty much delete this collision check and once again run this from 0. So if you still have any issues because it's for some reason detecting something that's already fixed, what you have to do is simply delete everything and leave this as completely blank, and once again you can run the collision detection function. Okay, so as usual, take some time, check out the collision detection function, mess around with this concept, and in the next lesson we will cover extra details. Right, so once again let's recap how you can create a map object, because if we open up the example over here for the facility, you will notice that we got this sanitary manhole object, which you can create really simple. You just need to model everything using the wall tool. You can model, for example, the cover with the slab tool, and you can model a basic slab over here. And finally, you need to position one pipe, and over here, you also need to position one pipe connection over here and save everything as a map object. So let's do this with ArchiCAD 26, which is exactly the same process in ArchiCAD 27. So maybe let's go ahead and first things first, let's maybe activate the architectural profile once again. I'm going to activate the wall tool. Let's set the walls to be maybe 600 in height, 150 in width, and the material set it to be completely brick material. The offset to project 0 is going to be 0. Let's press OK. Let's model this out. Maybe it's going to be somewhere around 700 by 600. Okay, it's looking good. And now let's model the slab. Activate the slab tool. It's going to be a basic slab with 150 millimeters in thickness of concrete. Press OK. Let's model the inferior part over here. And let's model the cover. The cover can be even lower thickness. Left click, and now we got the cover. Now this is the most important part and the most important step. You need to create your fittings. So let's go ahead, once again activate back the map engineering profile, and let's simply go ahead and activate the pipe tool over here. Let's take maybe one of the basic pipes we already got in our catalog, sanitary PVC, 4 inches in diameter. Double click it and simply left click over here to position your pipe. For some reason it's floating over here. I'm just going to move it around until it fits over here. Just going to maybe offset this a little bit, and let's make it so it stays inside this object. Right, something like this. Okay, and let's do the same for the other end. I'm just going to create a connection on the other end over here, and maybe displace this just a tiny bit. Okay, so you can define the connection, the longitude of the connection however you want, but you need to specify at least one connection for any type of map object that you create. Okay, so we got the entrance for the manhole, and we got the flow exit for the manhole over here. Now what we have to do is simply select everything and save it as a map object. So let's go ahead, simply select everything in 3D, doesn't matter which tool you have used, and let's go ahead to File and activate Libraries and Objects, Save Selection As, and let's activate the map part option over here. So it's pretty much going to open up the embedded library you got in ArchiCAD, and you can simply save this as basic manhole, something like this. For the different categories, you can leave it as it is. Doesn't matter that much for now. Equipment is looking good, and let's simply hit the save button over here. So once it's saved, now what you can do is simply activate in the pipework group the equipment tool over here. Let's go to the settings, and right over here you can see that the custom made object will appear with some type of error, because I'm pretty sure that I have selected everything. So yeah, for some reason it selected everything. Let's go ahead. You can even override the object if you make any type of mistakes. So let me just do that once again. Save this as a map part, and I'm going to override the object that I already had. Replace it. Let's try it once again in equipment. And yes, for some reason it's still detecting all the objects. So my best guess is that maybe we even have to delete this for some reason. Now that's something weird going on over here. Hopefully third time's the charm. So let's try once again. Save selection as map part, basic manhole, and save this as a custom flow equipment. Let's replace it. Let's see if it works. It finally works out. So yeah, maybe it's a bug. I don't really know why it's saving everything that I have not selected. So my best guess is just be careful. Maybe you can even, for example, select everything and just make sure by right clicking and show selection option. So that's a small detail to keep in mind. For some reason it saves the whole project. So just make sure to isolate maybe the objects that are the ones that you want to save. Okay, but once everything is done, let's activate the basic manhole, press OK, and let's simply left click over here to position the manhole somewhere around here maybe. Let's see, we can unisolate the object. Okay, so we can position the manhole over here. Let's maybe displace it so it's not floating at 2.5 meters right over here. Okay, and now you can see that everything's been treated instead of a separate element. Everything is being treated as a single object. And now you can click on one of the nodes, but you can see that now you got this connection and now you got this connection. If you go to the parameters, you're pretty much going to get the basic map custom settings over here, which are for the connections. You can click connections, but for some reason it's not going to display it. You can also specify the plant symbol, the tree view. We go back to ground floor, the map object. Yes, it's also going to display the center line for the connections. And the best part over here is that, for example, if you activate the map routing function and start your routing, it will detect the connection and will treat it as a basic pipe. So yeah, it has a basic connection here, and we can also start a routing on this point, and it's also going to detect that connection. So as you can clearly see, it's really easy and simple to save the map part. Just be careful, because for some reason, even if I select only the elements that I want to save, it's still taking into consideration the context. So once again, maybe you want to select them and right click them and isolate them by the show selection function.
And now we can say that we have covered almost everything within the Map Modeler workflow, as well as the key functions, differences, and strengths of each ArchiCAD version. With this, we can wrap up our review of the fundamental features. So for the next module, we'll begin applying these functions in a practical example, which I'll explain to you step by step. Don't forget to take a break before starting the next session, and without further ado, I'll see you in the next module.